Hi everybody, this is Susan from the Beverly Library again, and welcome to the second part of the Beverly Walking Tour. I'm currently standing at the corner of 5th and Ferry, and that is where our stories are going to start today. Okay, so if you didn't know, Beverly was started out as a planned community, and so all the streets in the old part of Beverly that run with the river are numbered. So that's how you get 5th Street. All the ones that run against are named by either places or people that were important at the beginning of Beverly. And that's how you get Ferry Street and Ferry Hill. And the reason for that is at one time there was no bridges. And so to get from Beverly to Waterford, you had to take the ferry. And the ferry house was at the end of Ferry Street. Also, you got 339 and 60. And just side note, those two have changed names over the years. So, this one, well, right now, where I'm looking at is both. That one is 60 and this is 339. Okay. Through time, they have been dirt roads, they have been brick-lined streets, and now they are paved. Another story for Ferry Hill and Ferry Street is at one time, before all the plants and everything made the river warmer, they used to sleigh ride Ferry Hill. They would start all the way up at the top and go and see if they could make it to Waterford. I have been told that it was a fun ride going down, but not so much going back up. Also, another point for this location is the 1913 flood. And we've all heard about the 1913 flood and how devastating it was. So how devastating was the flood? Where I'm currently standing was underwater. The first floor, well, eventually here, Cornerstone was underwater. There were boats on 5th Street. My next story is across the street here. Currently, it's the Cornerstone, or Corner Store. And when I was little, it was a gas station, and now it's just a drive-through. But evidently, this hasn't been here that long. In the 1850s, the people of Beverly decided they needed a financial institution. And so what they did, they gathered $150,000 and built the Citizens Bank. And that stood there for a lot of years until they moved to their current location. And then that building became the Beverly Hotel with the Fort Restaurant in the lower floors. And then over time, there was evidently a state liquor store in that location too. But now it is the Corner Store with this drive-through. Okay? Now we go to the next corner, and you've got the Beverly Depot. In the early 1900s, it was decided that they needed a way for people to get from Beverly to Marietta or to Parkersburg. And so they did something called the Interurban Train Station. And by the pictures, it kind of looks like maybe a trolley car. And that was called the Doodlebug. And you could ride the Doodlebug from Marietta to Beverly with a stop in Lowell. we go to this building. Hold on a second. Says that it was built in 1881, and by the maps of Beverly from that time, this was the Beverly Opera House. And if anybody has any pictures of the inside of the Beverly Opera House, I would greatly like to see it, because I cannot see this as an opera house. It has, through the years, it was a restaurant and a hotel or lodge or an inn. I've heard different names for it. It's also been a furniture store, and now it is the Cornerstone Inn, which is a restaurant that also brings in musicians. Now I am going to switch corners here, and give me a second. Okay, now I'm over here by the Cornerstone. And that's where I was before. And we got this parking lot, and I have been told at one time that was a pharmacy used to stand there. And then we have this brick building. And at one time, that was, this was the Beverly Village building. So you had everything in there. You had the fire department, you had the mayor's office, you had the police department with a jail, which was kind of like holding cells. You had the post office. We'll find out here in a minute that the post office has been in different locations. And the story for this building is, at one time, as I said, they had the jail. In the late 60s, they decided that they didn't want a jail in Beverly anymore. So someone was instructed to cut the bars, and so they took a blowtorch and removed the jails. Well, when they did that, evidently they had some idea that it needed to keep checking on it. So a couple times during the day, somebody would come in and check to make sure everything was still good. And the fifth time he came in, the room was on fire. So they called the police department, or not the police department, the fire department. And the guys came and got it on their engines and got all their equipment on and ran out the door, got on their engines and drove out and stopped, because it was at the fire department. So, and then we have where the post office used to be, and now it is the Rock Box. And I was told I also need to mention that the library has used that location. Oh, and I also forgot, where the fire department moved out, they put an arcade in down there. And that lasted for a little while. We come on down here a little bit. So, people of Beverly, I will point out, as soon as everything gets past here, this building back here is the Waterford Township Community Building. Where the Lions have their meetings and where the Chamber of Commerce has their meetings. But if the library needs extra space, they use that building. Also, people have parties in there. It is also the second floor, or the top floor, of the squad building. Come over a little bit further. And you have this parking lot. A lot of people had told me about the movie theater in Beverly. There's no movie theater in Beverly. What are you talking about? Evidently, there used to be a building there. When I was little, actually, it was storage for a furniture store. And that was the Beverly movie theater. And evidently, it had been there for years because I've heard people talk about seeing silent movies in there. And they watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs when it first came out in the 20s. And I've also heard different people say that they had school trips to go watch the movies. Next to that is, well, right now it's empty. Thank you. And it was a beauty parlor and a barber shop. And evidently before that, it was a deli restaurant. Little stop. One down through here. And on this side of the street, there's not much history left. You got auto parts and McDonald's. And way down there is your 5th Street church. Back over on the other side of the street, you got the Sweet Stop, Lisa's Sweet Stop. And at one time, that was a pharmacy and soda shop. And there's actually signs or pictures with the old Coca-Cola signs in the 1920s. Here's a picture of this area. Then you have Realty Stop. And if I'm looking at the pictures right, I'm trying not to. You've got, that used to be a post office. And you've got Doughboys. And I have not found any information on this one other than it's always been a pizza stop. And go on down. See if I can get it. And there's this one. And then you got this one. This used to be the Muskingum Valley Hardware, and now it is Tiny Treasures. And there's actually pictures where you had gas pumps outside that building. And I can go down a couple more, a little bit further here. Old house, and then you have Skinner Firestone. And down is Family Dollar, and there is the end of the street, well, end of the block, I guess, and that is 5th Street Church of Christ. And that will finish our walk for today, and see you all next week.